Thanks so much for being on, Ariel.
Thank you for having me.
So this is the Karen Mitches podcast with Ariel Kagan.
Yeah, you said my name pretty good.
How do you say it?
Ariel Kagan. You said pretty good.
Nice.
A lot of people mispronounce it all the time. Ariel. Ariel Kagan. Well, thanks for having me. We're talking comedy. We're talking life.
So you've been at comedy for quite a while.
Yeah, I've been in stand-up for 12 years, yeah. But before that, I worked in music and entertainment. I started when I was 15.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so like my first gig ever was selling merch at concerts. So I've kind of been around shows and entertainment my whole life.
And then how did you switch over to comedy?
I worked at a music venue that had a stand-up night, and then they had an open mic section, and the owner of the venue, I had told him I wanted to try stand-up, so he put my name in the bucket.
Oh, no.
And then they pulled my name, and so I had to go up and tell jokes.
Did you do well at your first time?
I murdered. My first two sets were a misnomer because the first set I went up in the spur of, like, I had done theater in high school, so I had, like, and because I'd been thinking about trying it for so long, I had stuff I wanted to try kind of already in my head. And so I went up and told this very crude story about trying to sell my semen with a buddy, and it murdered. Because it was an open mic and everyone else, I guess, hadn't tried stand-up or was new, and I had done some theater. So I went up with a little bit more confidence than the average person and did well. And then the guy was like, you should try this. Like, come back. And like, the guy who booked it, he was like, you work here, you may as well be on a show. And then 60 of the regulars of the bar came to watch me try stand-up for the first time.
Oh, my God.
And it was amazing. It was the best, one of those best feelings. And, like, it's I always say it's like you don't want to start too strong because it sets you up for failure for what stand-up actually is, right?
Yeah.
Like, stand-up is long, tedious.
But I feel like that first mic, you want to get that rush, so then you're
Yeah, I mean,
it.
I was hooked forever, right? Like, the minute I got my first big pop, it was over. You're just done. You're like, oh, there goes the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like,
did you find it was a big step up from theater because it was your own jokes?
yeah, I mean, I always told stories, like, with band dudes. Like, we would sit around, and just tell stories. And so, like, I've always had, like, pretty interesting stories. Like, interesting things have happened to me. Plus, I grew up in a really erratic household. So it's like, when you have those kind of things already kind of under the surface, you naturally you become good at telling stories. And I think I got blessed in that sense, and then that comes more naturally to me. So if you watch old stand-up from me, I'm very long form. I tell a lot of stories. It was more Mike Birbiglia-esque. Now I'm moving to more like me, you know what I mean? Where it's like,
yeah,
it's punchy, but it's story orientated. But
Birbiglia is like the quintessential story guy.
Yeah, I used to be obsessed, but I went off him.
Yeah, I feel like everyone has to have a Birbiglia phase. Maybe not.
Well,
maybe
just you got to
everyone.
appreciate it. Like, have you ever? I love listening to stand up more than I like watching stand up, because if a joke can make you laugh with you can't see the act out, that's a really good bit. And he's the best at that because he's such he does a lot of physical stuff, but his bits are just like actually kind of. So I don't know if he made that movie Sleepwalk with Me.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it, that's off a stand-up special actually, called the same thing, and the special that is his best special.
Yeah, does it have the joke in it where he goes, "What I should have said was nothing."
Nothing. Yeah.
Because that lives in my mind.
Yeah. What I should have said was nothing. Yeah, he was doing that before that though. I think that became his what he got kind of known for early in shows. That one has the one where he's telling the story about he started to walk in his sleep, and he threw himself out of a window basically. It's so interesting already, right? Like, it's inherently interesting, and so it's like you're more likely to listen,
Yeah, although I think some people have interesting stories and are less funny than people with kind of more basic stories.
Well, if the interesting story is what is the foundation to a good bit, right? Like, it's like, okay, well, then you add jokes to it, and then it becomes a bit. Kyle Kinane is the king of that. like where it's like he just takes a story and he just bits it to the point where it's like, oh, this is hilarious. Dan Soder's really good at
Kinane
it.
also has another one that lives in my head where he goes like, the universe will tell you what you can get away with.
Yeah.
And it's
I love Kinane.
Yeah.
Underrated. Really underrated comedian, I think. I think you'll see him blow up harder in like the next few years.
It's weird that he didn't, because
I mean,
think,
he's huge. He is huge. Like he's living the dream life.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I don't know, like,
But he's not, like, if we walked outside right now and asked the average person, they'd be like, who?
yeah.
You ask the average comedian, they'll be like, who? And it's like, he's one of the,
Yeah.
he's just so good.
I guess it's his career, but I just feel like he should be bigger.
I mean, he's got 6 specials. Like, he's touring the world. You know, I think he's doing pretty good. But yeah, you hear that, Kinane? Kinane, if you see this, be better.
Be better.
Be bigger. Have more fans. Says the 2 people with no fans. I have some fans, but very few.
I don't have any fans.
Yeah, it's a weird.
I have family members who are watching, so.
Yeah, it's a weird conundrum in that, like I can outsell a lot of people with good followings. Like, I can film venues better than people with followings, but it's like, how do I convert them to actually being like diehard fans of me? Like, I've had murder sets, and then people are like, good night. And like, it's like, wait, you don't want to be my fan? Like, I just murdered. And it's like, okay, well, I guess this sucks. I guess I'll just cry about it later to myself.
Okay, so I want to ask you though, when you got into comedy, were you still in South Africa?
Yeah, I started in South Africa. I did about a year there. Oh, just over a year. I did about 50 sets.
Okay.
Because there's less mics.
And then you
Better
were like,
shows.
now I must go to America.
Actually, my friend died.
Oh.
And then I was really depressed, and I wasn't handling it well. And instead of seeing a therapist or dealing with it, I was like, and I was in a really bad car accident. These 2 things happened back to back. The one happened in January, the other one happened in June. And then when I got all the insurance money, I was like, I got to go live somewhere else. And so I just moved.
Do you have any physical like fallout from your accident still?
I mean, I definitely have memory issues. Like, I struggle with, I can't tell if I'm just an asshole or if I struggle with names. Because, like people just tell me their name and immediately I'll forget it. And then I'm like, I used to keep a note in my phone. As soon as I met someone, I would write their name down. But then I end up having this note in my phone, which is names. And that looks weirder.
That makes you look like a serial killer.
Yeah, people are like, what is this note? I'm like, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember you. Like, it's weird, you know? So now I read this thing, like, get someone to, you repeat their name immediately after they tell you.
Yeah.
You should remember it. And so it's like, I've been actively trying to do that. But
then sometimes people think you're hitting on them because you keep saying their name, or you're trying to sell them something.
That's all right. That's their problem. Yeah, maybe I'm hitting on you. Relax. Cool. Take the compliment. Jesus.
So what's the difference between stand-up in South Africa and Canada?
I mean, I've been out of the South African scene for so long, so who knows what it's like now. But again, that long form kind of inherently is in the culture. Like, a lot of storytellers, a lot of, like, the biggest comedians were, you know, they do 60-minute theater shows more than, like, stand-up sets, right? Stand-up is joke, set up joke, set up joke, set up joke, and, like, hitting jokes per minute, whereas, you know, it's just different style. You know, I went back in 2017 and performed at the club I started in, and, like, I did exceptionally well just because I was a different style of act than they usually get there, right? Because it was just like, I was just set up, hit, set up, hit, set up, hit, which is, you know, when we're watching stand-up, most of the time that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
But there's massive comedians that are, like, full storytelling legends, you know what I mean? So there's a place for both of them. I think the biggest thing is just the amount of shows. Like, there isn't an open mic culture. Open mics were really jarring my first year here. Eventually I got used to them, but they're not great. They're not good for you. They're like a cesspool of, like, nobody cares about each other. We only care about the fucking 3 minutes, 4 minutes set I'm about to do. A lot of the time nobody's listening. You get no gauge on material. And it's like, how is this making me better? You know what I mean? It does.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't, but it could.
You do.
It is time that could be used better.
You do need an audience, so even a bad one is better than just being on your own.
Yeah, but the amount of bits that I probably let die because I did them at open mics and they didn't do anything, and then I was like, well, that must be a bad bit. Because what you end up doing is trying to get comedians to laugh, and comedians' sensibilities is so different from the average audience.
Yeah.
Right? So
Last night I did the same bit twice, and I did it at an open mic that had audience, and it felt
Went
great.
well.
And I was like, this is a great bit. And then I went to the next one, and it was just comedians. I didn't get on to the end of the night, and I was like, should I retire this bit so bad?
how quickly that swings, eh?
It's fucking demoralizing.
Yeah. You want to hear my worst open mic story?
Yes.
This is my worst open mic story of all time. So I went to the Bucket Show at Comedy Bar, which back in the day was run by other comedians, and it was a bit looser, not as tightly run now, but not as structured. But it was pro show first, and then a Bucket Show. I got there to watch the pro show. I always think watching shows is more important at times than doing a set, because you learn from other people, right?
Yeah.
You learn, oh, that was interesting, that was right. So I would try and watch as many pro shows as possible. And I watched the whole pro show, put my name in the bucket. And so I got there at like 8:45. I got pulled at 1:40 a.m. And all the people and all that's left is me and the sound guy.
Nice.
And I was like, you know what? I waited. I'm going to do it. And I start doing my first joke, and the sound guy leaves.
Oh, no.
So now it's just me. And I was like, this really sucks. I left the comfort of my friends and family. I left the country I know and love to chase my dream. This is the dream.
Yeah.
This is the dream.
This is the dream. Just you
Yeah.
on the stage by yourself.
So hurtful. So
Oh.
hurtful. One of the most hurtful nights I've ever had.
Does that live in
stand-up.
your soul?
Every time I want to remind myself how far I've come, I'll just flash that into my head.
My worst one yet is like just doing, it was a spot with a small audience so I can see everyone's face, and there was a girl there that I recognized because she works at my grocery store, and then I just like went up and bombed, and then I was just like, this is how she knows me now.
Yeah, that's
like,
like,
she doesn't know I'm like a good comedian who did a bad performance. She's
yeah.
I'm just now like the sad chick from the grocery
that's
store.
that's rough. Yeah, I've bombed in front of plenty of people, so you just get used to it at some point.
Are you used to it?
I don't like it,
Yeah.
but I can just roll with it now.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, okay, every couple, when you start getting upper echelon of stand-up, it's like you're reducing how many times you bomb and how many times you do well, but the bombs are still there, right?
Yeah.
Like I bomb frequently, but on the stats I've bombed less now than I did last year, and like so it's like, okay, I can
Nice.
keep living with that.
So how long have you been running your club?
We opened in our location now in February of 2021. 2022. What year is it?
It's 2024.
Yeah, so we're 2.5 years old.
Nice.
But we opened in another venue for a couple weeks, which was really weird and painful because they evicted us after one show.
What?
So we lost like all the money because we had been throwing shows as Bubby's Boys around the city, right? We had 4 shows around the city, and so all the money we had made and saved from running those shows, we put into opening the first version of the club, and we lost it all overnight. It was just gone.
What was the reason for the eviction?
They were 2 brothers. They had a dispute about what it should be used for, and then the one brother didn't like it, and the other brother did like it, and it just wasn't the right fit, which me and Brandon always have a saying. If you guys don't know me, I have a business partner who's also a comedian. Check him out. He's very funny. But
Brandon Sobel.
You find me, you find him. We're like a codependent couple. But we always say if it's going too easy, something bad is going to happen, right? Like that is the sure marker for something bad about to happen is everything else is going too easy. So we made the deal. We moved in. The construction went well. We were set up quick. The website was done. It just seemed like it was going.
Yeah.
Oh, why didn't we do this for years?
It's so simple.
And then boom, it was like immediately turned, and we were like, okay, well this is why it's got to be
Yeah.
It's got to be harder than this. So if you see, like, I can send photos so you can cut them in, but like opening weekend of Backroom as it is now to where Backroom is now is one of the craziest side-by-side visuals.
Oh.
Because I always wanted Backroom to kind of look how it looks now, but we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So we just had to rebuild and start again. And it was like, and then you had comics coming all the time and being like, well, why aren't you buying this or doing that? It's like, we lost all the money. Like, where do you think money comes from? Like, we lost all of the money. And now we're just trying to recoup, like, you know, and people like, it's, yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves.
You did get a good, like, one of the things I like about Backroom, it has like the right visual for a comedy club.
Thank you.
But I guess everything is a process, right? Like,
yeah,
making it happen.
And like finding ways, because, you know, we're not interior designers. We're not like, so how do I get the vision in my head across to the team of people who are going to do it? You know what I mean? Like, because we do everything pretty DIY.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, how do we actually execute on this? And we're getting better and better and better at doing that. Like, you've seen the new table. We just put in new tables. That was like, before we would have just been like, let's put in new tables and just showed up to the hardware store and tried to figure it out. But this time we like planned, we measured everything, we planned, like,
okay,
right?
yeah.
Like, we actually took it like a project, and then it was like, oh, it worked out. So it's like, okay, we should approach everything like this.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember my friend was complaining about her company, and she said something like everything we do, it looks like we're doing it for the first time. And then I try to think about that. Like, I don't want to look like I'm doing something for the first time. So,
well, what's wrong with doing something for the first time?
Yeah. But then, yeah, you I guess there has to be a first time.
Yeah, sometimes it is the first time. A lot of what we do is the first time, you know? Like, I've never owned a business before. I've never owned a venue before. It's the first time I'm doing all of these things. So it's like, yeah, I've worked for other venues. Yeah, I've worked for other comedy clubs. But it's like, okay, how do I do it my way, for me, to get the product I want to put out there?
How do you find the promotional end of the club?
You mean getting people?
Yeah.
That's the game. Like, that is the game. The club can look as nice as it looks. We can have the best comedians in the world.
Yeah.
But if people are not buying tickets, you're not in business. It's just about working. People say it's hard to sell tickets. It is incredibly hard. But I'm also learning, like, people just don't know how to do work. You know what I mean? Just break it down. What sells tickets? There's 55 seats. If each kind of revenue or angle brings in 5 to 10 people, am I hitting all of those to make sure it happens?
Yeah.
You know? We made mistakes in that, like, we put on too many shows. If we had just done 1 show Friday, 2 shows Saturday, and that was all we were open for, we would have been sold out faster. But because we decided the problem with Backroom, its main problem is it became a business a year late. Like, we originally didn't think of it as a business. We were solving a problem in our lives. How do we get on stage more?
Oh, okay.
Because we both want to be the best comedians we can be.
Yeah.
How do we solve that problem? Well, there's only one way. Stage time. That is the only way. You can write as much as you want. You can do as much as you know, you can watch as much stand-up, but without stage time, you aren't going to progress.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm not getting up enough. He's not getting up enough. How do we do that? Well, we both know how to sell tickets. Let's start there. And so then, right?
So you were just having as many shows as you could.
And then so when we moved into Backroom, we were like, well, we're open. We've already paid the rent. So we may as well be open as much as they'll let us be open. And that was Wednesday to Sunday, 2 shows a night. But that's hard. That means I went from producing 4 shows a week to producing 10 shows a week. And it's like, okay, how do I sell that many more tickets? And we still have bad nights. Last night, 10 o'clock, no show. It happens. You know, I'm getting better at the failure aspect because it is failure. It's like, you're telling me I couldn't get, in a city of 6 million people, I couldn't get 55 people here tonight?
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
And you guys always have good comics, which is the thing.
Which is the lowest thing on the thing.
But but it's frustrating. Like,
well, if you want my true opinion on this, the comics are the problem. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
You guys are the
I'm
problem.
talking to you fucks. No, they are. They value the joke. Like, there seems to be this disconnect in stand-up right now, and as a booker I see it more, is where they think just because they wrote good jokes and are good at stand-up, they now deserve the money.
Yes.
That's not how it works, right? Like, it's unfortunate that in a true world that would be enough, but the same way musicians have to go and practice and promote and market, so people know their band it's the same principle in stand-up. And I would say, and this is mean, but 70% of Toronto stand-up don't treat it like a business.
Yeah.
They treat it as like, but I'm good. It's like, cool. You know how many of us are good?
Yeah.
There's too many of us who are just good.
But it's like the reason why all those musicians don't own their masters. It's like because being a good musician didn't make you world famous. Like, people promoted you and then they made you famous and they own your content.
Yep. That's a perfect analogy, actually. Like, the perfect analogy.
But now everyone has social media, so you can actually have a following online, and then if you bring that to the club with you.
For sure, but how many people have followings and don't sell tickets?
Which I didn't know till I talked to you recently.
Crazy. Like 100,000 followers, million views on a video, 4 tickets sold.
How is that happening?
Like, come on. Like, what is happening here? Right? Like, that's wild to me. It's one of the wildest things. Like, one of the most, like, it creates a disillusion, right? Because, like, we take a very hard, like, go check it out. You know, we put out content daily. Like, we're putting out custom sketches, stand-up clips. Like, we're really trying, and it's like, okay, like this, we're banking that it's a long-term play.
Yeah.
Because we believe in ourselves and our vision. But really, we could just be spinning the wheels for no reason. That is something we could be doing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like,
while we sit here and record
yes,
this?
Yes.
Hear that, people? She doesn't believe in you. She doesn't believe you're going to watch this. So watch it. Give her a like. Give her a follow. Is that pandering? Okay.
Yes. But it was okay because you were doing it for me.
Yeah.
So how did you find Brandon?
I mean, you want to talk universe. That's universe, right? It put a guy who needed me and a guy I needed in each other's paths at the right moment, right? Because I was in like a very toxic headspace. Like, originally I did his show in like way back, and it was probably the best set I've ever done in my life to this date, right? Like, I got a standing applause at his show.
Fuck.
Only one I've ever gotten. But because I dealt with a heckler that no one dealt with. And then I got her to leave the show. So they were all just like, what? Like, this is magic. And it was such a great night. And we became friends after that. But we didn't know each other because he lived in Hamilton. I lived here. And then he moved to Toronto. And then we went to the Corner Comedy Club. Check it out. The best comedy club in the city. And then us. But we're
so
coming
Corner
for you,
is number one, Backroom.
I have the deepest love and respect for the Corner Comedy Club. Like, he just does a lot of good things. He does a lot of good for stand-up, but his motivations are great. He's a good dude. Like,
because he got into it because he wanted to promote local comedy.
Yeah, and he's been around comedy for a while. So it's like, you know, and his intention is the best for comedy, which is, you can't ever be upset by that. And they put on great shows. And, you know, when stuff was hardest for me, he was putting me on. So I have nothing but respect for the Corner Comedy Club. And that's where I met Brandon, right? Again, where we reconnected. And then, you know, yeah, I won't talk about his stuff going on, but he had some stuff going on that I was able to help him through. He helped me through stuff, and we just formed a genuine friendship. So, which is rare in stand-up.
In your partnership, is there kind of like he's this one and you're the other one? Like,
we kind of oscillate. We kind of oscillate, but I'm probably more. I'm the more. He's the bigger thinker. Like, he's always got big ideas, and I'm the guy who knows which ones are executable, with the budgets, with the I'm a big thinker too, but I think more about how do we execute?
Yeah,
right, how do we actually? Okay, this is the idea you're pitching, but how does this look? I'd rather talk about an idea for 6 months than start an idea.
Okay.
Right, because it's like I'm growing into that person. That's something newer for me, because before I would have been like, yeah, let's just do it, but it's like that's not how success is found. So I've taken more of a, like, people call us bad cop, good cop, right? Like, but we oscillate between those two.
But I feel like
Because I try to push standard. Like, standard is what I'm after. Standard is what I'm seeking. Like, I want, when customers come who are more important than the comedians, when they come, I want them to leave going, had a great time. I laughed so hard. That was way higher quality than I thought was possible in Toronto stand-up. And so we get rid of that, like, because what are we fighting? A lot of the time it's like people are like, oh, stand-up. Oh, you guys aren't John Mulaney. Yeah, we know we're not John Mulaney. You know how John Mulaney became John Mulaney? You came to these shows. Right? It's like crazy to me, but yeah. Our scene's really good. Like, really good. Like, we've produced 3 of the biggest comedians on the internet in the last...
Who's that?
Ryan Long, Jay Dorena, Packer. Like, these are all Toronto comedians who are, like, showing you that it's possible.
Yeah, it is. It's a good time. Like, it's a good way to... It's a good city to go out in because we have that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm interested. I'm thinking about this when you dealt with this heckler, and then I'm thinking about when I've seen you on stage and you get into crowd work. Like, do you like telling people to fuck off?
Yeah. I'm confrontational by nature, and it's been exacerbated by my life. My biggest trigger is when someone starts conflict with me, but then tries to back out of the conflict. You better believe we're having more conflict. If you start conflict and then walk away from the conflict like you didn't do nothing, we're in the biggest fight you've ever been in. Because I'm not, like, I'm a guy who, like, I like to sort it out now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to think about this again. Like, let's just get it over with. Because a fight to me is nothing. Right? It's like we flare up for a minute, we reset, we address the emotions that came up, and then we move on with our lives. It's not that big of a deal. But everyone's like, oh, conflict. It's like, maybe you should get better at this. Right? Like, you never fought with anyone? Like, it's insane to me. But also people, and I'm dumb. Everyone else is also dumb. Like, there's a lot of dumb in stand-up.
Yeah.
Like, just
we're in the world.
Just weirdest attitudes and beliefs. Like, crazy. Like, I'm not going to say the comedian's name, but I just got into a fight with a comedian last night.
Okay.
So we're doing this thing in the summer where we let people close out a show. We don't really do headliners. We don't book. I like a drop-in system because, firstly, I don't have the time or skill set available to me to manage everyone else's schedule and book around people. And then, so we moved to a drop-in system where it's like the best people who show up get on. It sucks. I know that sucks. I know that's not great for comedians. You come there, it costs you money to be there. It hurts when you don't get up. I get that. I'm doing it for me. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have the time to run a calendar of booking.
Yeah.
Maybe once the place is full all the time, I can move to a system where I'm just booking people. You know what I mean? And, like, I pay an admin person to coordinate schedules and all that. Because the amount of time we were booking shows and the lineup we put out and the lineup that happened that night, I would say 50% were not the same lineup.
Fuck.
And it's like, that's bad for business.
Yeah.
That's bad for business. So I moved to this system. Me and Brendan moved to the system, and it works for us and our space.
Because there's always people showing up.
And if they don't, me and Brandon get to do more time.
Nice.
You understand that we're really good comedians. That's why we do it. It's like, I always say to comedians, like, I don't need you to do time. I need to do time.
Yeah.
So it's like every minute I put up on the board is a minute I'm taking away from me. I could go up there and do 60 minutes. I could. Okay. I wouldn't be great. I'm not saying I'd be good at it, but I could do that if I wanted. You know what I mean?
Okay, so wait. So what was the story? This guy?
So we do 70-30 door splits, all right? They get 70%, we do 30. 30 covers our base cost. Under the pretense that if you do well, we do well, right? That's how I structure it. We don't charge you a rental fee. We don't, right? It's just like, if you sell tickets, we get paid, you get paid. But the consensus is that you got to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we're doing it. Anyway, sometimes it fails. I'm not unreasonable, right? Sells 2 tickets, all right? We sold 11 on our end, right? So it's like, we make sure there's a show happening. There's 13 people here. He's like, I still want to do 40. It's like, you sold 2 tickets. You sold 2 tickets.
But he wanted the same cut.
He wants the same stage time, but
stage
but
time.
why do you get 40 minutes? For what purpose? With the 2 people who paid, fine. You know what? I'll get these people. Let them stay for the 10 o'clock, and you can perform for the 2 tickets you sold. You can do your 40 minutes. Sure, that sounds fair. But you see how quickly we're in conflict? Because I understand from his perspective, we had a deal. But it's like, be present to the deal. You sold 2 tickets. The only conversation we should have been having was, I'm very sorry, I only sold 2 tickets. Like, that's the only conversation we should have been having. But now you want to fight me on stage time? You sold 2 tickets. Fuck, dude. And then they try to make you seem like the bad guy. And it's like, I'm not the bad guy. You sold 2 tickets. It's wild.
Okay, so how did you become so conflict? I want to say friendly, like you like it.
I don't like it. Nobody likes conflict. I'm just not afraid of conflict. Right? I'm not afraid that if you and I, say we stop recording this podcast right now and then we get into a fight.
Okay.
I'm not afraid if I never talk to you again.
Oh, shit.
You understand? Because firstly, I've lost so many people in my life. Like, people have come in and out of my life my whole life. So it's like, that's just part of it. Yeah. Secondarily, it's like, I think I hold enough space and enough reasonability to know that just because we're in a fight doesn't mean as people we can't still get along.
Yeah.
Like, cool, we're in a fight right now, but we won't be in a fight in an hour from now. And if we get through the fight right now, we're more likely to be closer at the end of the fight.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, because we understand each other better.
Okay.
I understand you, you understand me, you understand how I think, I understand how you think. Most of the time, fighting comes from different expectation. And so it's like, okay, I had this expectation, you had this expectation, that's why we're fighting.
So sometimes the fighting is just a debate.
Yeah, it's
like
a debate.
It's not...
But people don't like my approach. This one I'm working on. My approach is bad, that I'll admit. I'm also hyper emotional, which means if you catch me in the wrong moments, I can exert emotions poorly. I still, feeling the emotion is valid. Making it your problem is not valid. Like, fighting is an art, unto itself. It's like, I'm allowed to be upset. That part is allowed.
Yeah.
How I choose to express that to you is my responsibility.
Okay, so this is...
So yelling, for example, is bad. Like, when I fight, I don't want to be yelling. But I will get stern.
Yeah.
Right? People always say you're yelling. It's like, no, I'm being stern. There's a difference. You'll know when I'm yelling. Because I'm irascible.
What does irascible mean?
Like, it's just like there's no coercive... Like, I can't think clearly. I'm just, like, yelling. You know what I mean? It's different. Have you ever seen me yell at someone? You've seen me...
I don't
be
think
upset.
I've literally seen you yell, but I think I've seen you yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm not looking great in this, huh? Anyway. Who cares?
No, but I kind of like this idea. I think...
Are you conflict adverse? You strike me as someone who would be very conflict adverse.
I'm very conflict averse, but I also used to have a problem, like, because I'm very political and I studied politics, and I think I used to think if I told you something, you would just see the facts and then you would change your mind because I'm right. And I couldn't understand, like, sometimes it's not a right or wrong, there's different perspectives, but there's also like a way that people change their opinion. So I like said horrific things to people about like different things, but I remember like gay marriage in the 90s when I was a teen. I would tell people, and see, if you don't agree with it, you're a bad person. I've laid out the facts. Like, why wouldn't you change your mind? And then you like run into people.
You're pro gay marriage, just for the record.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the record, needed to hear that.
Yeah. So then you run into people like decades later, and some of them turned out they were gay. turned out like they're friends with gay people. Everyone's fine with the issue. The whole culture changed on it. So I was like, oh, I didn't maybe need to be a dick about it.
Yeah.
But like some people change. It's not about like a presentation of facts. It's like they need to get to know something and see what it is, and then they'll change their feelings about it.
Yeah.
You could never just like lay out the numbers, and nobody analyzes the numbers. They sort of deal in stories and what they experience in their own life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sometimes, in some ways, a waste of time to try to convince people of things.
I'll say that for someone who is so like conflict forward, conflict most of the time is a waste of time. Like a lot of the time, it's like I'm just interrupting my own piece. Instead of me just going, okay, they said something shitty, just walk away. Just walk away. You don't have to engage with it. There's no reason you have to engage with it. But then there's this part of me, and this comes from my nature, is that when it's like someone is now like says something underhanded or shitty, and I just don't like it. It's like, I'm gonna tell you I don't like it, when really I should just walk away. And me and my therapist talk about at length about this. Like, how do I just let things go a lot of the time?
What does the therapist say?
I mean, my therapist likes me, so I pay her. You know what I mean? So she's on my side. No, like she's teaching me to be less like you're meeting me at the best version of me I've ever been. You know what I mean? Like if you met me in 2018, 2019, 2020, we wouldn't be here, I assure you. You would have been like, that guy is a problem. And I would just yell. I'd have temper tantrums. It was like little boy behavior.
So what were some of the things said that like got through to you?
It really was my own want and desire. I don't want to be an angry man. I don't want to be in my 70s yelling. You know, it's such a toxic, and anger is a powerful motivator, 100%. But it's a secondary emotion that comes with sadness. It just means I'm sad. And it's like I don't need to be sad anymore.
Did you do the anger iceberg?
No, what's that?
It's in therapy where they teach you about how like anger is a cover emotion, and they show you an actual iceberg, and then it has the names of the I'm gonna get it.
Put the graphic, bro.
It has the names of the feelings under it, but it's sadness and fear, and then they're listing like different types of sad and different types of fearful.
Just sad fear is reductive. There's like, you know, English is actually a very expressive language, and I find, you know, the more you can channel true expression, you know, like the word irascible, for example, it's like that's different from being agitated, right? It is a different emotion. So it's like you got to know which one you actually are.
Yeah. So I used to do this exercise that was like trying to like find the emotion like in your body to like, because I think it's like you don't even know, you feel the anger, but you don't feel what's underneath it. So you start by just feeling the anger and then seeing like what emotion is under there, and then seeing if you can like be present with that emotion, and that if it just like goes out on its own.
Do you meditate?
No.
Is that
well, I don't do sitting meditation, so I guess then I say I don't meditate. I do, well, like when I'm running,
there's
and
like
when
40 schools of thought on meditation. There isn't one way to meditate.
Yeah, I guess I have different ways that I'm meditative.
Yeah, that's good, because that's what meditate, you know, I try to meditate daily, in that it teaches you how, when an emotion comes up, to go, okay, that's the emotion, let me put it aside. Like, is this going to help me right now? Like, is this going to solve my problem right now? Is being angry right now going to solve my problem? Most of the time, the answer is no. Right? I'd say 9 out of 10 times.
Have you ever, like, kind of had a mess up on stage because you got angry? Like, I've seen this where someone gets mad at the heckler, but then they're worse.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the comic loses the audience.
I can teach you. I was taught this by a pro. There's 3 ways to deal with a heckler, and you always have to follow these steps. First way is inclusion, which is use what they're saying to include them in the night to get the room to laugh. So someone's like, you know, they yell something out like, you suck. It's like, oh, why do you think that? Right? Like you're like including them in that, right? And then if that doesn't work, you then do exclusion. You make fun of them specifically to get everyone else unified.
Yeah.
Right? That one is trickier because that's where you toe the line between mean and harsh.
Yeah.
And then third is just be a complete asshole. Like just like ruin that person's evening.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's
so they're sort of humiliated.
Because if they didn't come on the first one and they didn't come on the second one, they're there to ruin the show. And now it's your job to save the show for everyone else. So it's like deal with the heckler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But honestly, you never get to the third one. I've seen it twice. Most people make a mistake in the first two, and they go to the third first.
Yeah.
And then it's
look
over.
like an asshole.
And then it's over.
But this is like the weird thing. I think a lot of people think, well, the heckler's a jackass and everyone will be on my side. But a lot of the time, the heckler doesn't seem like the worst person. Like he's just drank too much and he's trying to chat. He might really actually like you. And if you just start yelling at that guy, like the audience feels you being the dick. And
yeah, I mean, you can make you're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're gonna misread situations. That's also part. I always say, you know, if I ever go too harsh on a heckler, if you watch me deal with hecklers, often after I am done, I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, you know what? I play down. I like apologize because like I'm just trying to get people back on side. Like I'll actually just explain what I'm doing a lot of the time. But how often are you dealing with hecklers? It's pretty rare. It used to be way more common, actually, I think.
do you think it's coming back? I feel not hecklers coming back, but I think because people watch crowd work stuff online, they want to like talk to you and they think they're supposed to.
I guess I negate it because if you watch me do most sets, I start with crowd work, right? So it's like I negate the heckler because I talk to everyone.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm going to get to the heckler eventually. The heckler doesn't need a heckle. The heckler will be like, well, I'll get my 10 minutes. You know, like,
so do you have when you're doing crowd work, do you have a system for it?
Nah.
You're just
I like conversation. I've always been a conversationalist. It's just a conversation. If it goes poorly, I just move on. You know what I mean? Like.
So is there a moment early on where you can just tell like this person's embarrassed and I should walk away?
It will depend. I don't know about you, but I it's so weird to say, but like I watch them. I watch their body. I watch how they talk. I watch what they do as they talk.
Yeah.
Like I'm paying attention to the person while they're talking to me. Like I watch how they move, you know, and then I'll be like, why'd you do that? Or why'd you say it like that? Or why did your tone say this? Why, you know, I'm like paying attention for
the way. This is like my nightmare that like the guy on stage would be like talking to me, but then also judging me.
Well, I'm not judging. I'm trying. That's the thing. I think it's like I'm not judging. I'm genuinely curious why'd you say it like that? Like a lot of the time it happens with couples where someone will be like, ugh, 4 years. Well, why'd you say it like that? Why did you the 4 years? Why weren't you excited about the 4 years? She seems nice. You seem nice. What's going on? And now you see how I've opened so many doors because this can go so many ways now. And I've actually put it in their court almost. They dictate where we're going. I
feel like this explains how like your confrontationalness is useful. Like when you're not angry, but you're just like willing to like.
Yeah, like I don't mind if it's uncomfortable for a minute or two. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm okay in uncomfortability.
Are you enjoying it?
I do like building tension. Like if you watch me do stand up, I do like to build tension, right? Like because tension is what creates laughter, right? Like it's one of the tools that creates laughter. There's a great book called Why Do People Laugh, and like one of the parts is tension, right? It's like, you know, and it's just more naturally to the style of how I am. I'm not going out there looking for a fight. You know what I mean? I'm not going
but
up
you find one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll generally be like, oh, well, that hurt. Or like, and I'm present with myself, too. Like, if something actually hurts my feelings, I'll be like, that hurt my feelings. You know what I mean? But
I feel like there's something to that as well, just being able to be honest on stage.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon and I always say that good comedy is authenticity and honesty meeting confidence at the right moment, right? Like, those three things have to align for it to be good. Right, because I could go up there and be just honest.
Yeah.
Probably not going to get laughs.
It's weird, though. Like, it's. I feel like sometimes it's easy to be honest about something. Like, I've prepared to tell some story that was maybe embarrassing at one point, and now I'm seeing the comedy in it. But if something's happening on stage and I'm being awkward, just to be like, oh, like, I've just... like like minor honesty. That
Yeah, you see, like I
authenticness.
think there's something so funny in just like if you took a step back and you just said something like, "Man, I got awkward, huh?" Because we are all aware of it. You're aware of it.
Yeah.
It's so honest and human to be like, "Wow, that made me real awkward." Like they're gonna laugh. You know what I mean? Unless they really dislike you, then it's over.
Did you always like tension, or is it something you learned to like because it was
I used to do
useful?
a lot of like set, right, mechanical. You got to do that part of it. Set up, punch, right, set up, punch. And then I started hosting a show at the Underground Comedy Club back in the day.
Oh, someone was just talking to me about that. Joe's.
R.I.P. She's around.
Yeah.
The venue itself is gone. But
She's hosting over at Spirit Leaf. the
yeah,
cannabis
so
patio.
I would, yeah, go check out her shows. I would host the Saturday at 11 show. Well, me and Hisham Kaladi co-hosted, so we would alternate weeks, and that really upped my, because I would like it'd be the same, like the main audience at that show was the same 20 people, right? So you couldn't come with jokes, or you'd have to write new stuff.
Yeah.
But what I end up finding was like I'm really good at finding jokes, right? Like often I'm doing crowd work to find my own material. I'm hitting doors until someone opens a door that I go, oh, by the way, here's a joke I have. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because it's more organic, more conversational. I always use the analogy, you ever been at a party and someone's telling you jokes? Like a guy comes up and tells you jokes.
Yeah.
You fucking hate that guy. You hate that guy. You're like, let me guess, it's a street joke. You know what I mean? Like it's not even material he's written.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of the time when you're doing stand-up a lot and you're telling the same jokes over, that's how it ends up. The audience feels. There's nothing worse than a guy who's on stage who's like, you're clearly just telling me jokes.
Yeah.
It's like, no, make it, like, where are you in it? Like, that's why we're here.
Do you ever just try to make someone uncomfortable? Like,
No, I'm trying to make them laugh forever.
I saw this thing with Tig Notaro, and she was talking about just doing fuckery just to see how awkward she could make shit.
Yeah, she's at that point though. She knows where her next $1 million is coming from. You know what I mean? If you gave me $1 million, maybe.
I think there is some people though, just like okay, my friend gave, like, he did Christmas with his girlfriend's parents, and he forgot to get them a gift, so he gave them like a magazine subscription because he didn't need to like already have it.
Yeah.
But then he like
Smart.
he forgot to get it. So then the next year at Christmas, he had not given them the gift from the year before. So then what he decided to do was tell them their gift was that he was renewing the subscription, just to make it as awkward as possible, that they'd have to be like, you never did that.
That's an interesting approach.
And it's a very strange kind of
It's a
person.
very weird approach. I don't think I would handle it that way. But it's funny. I'll give him that. That's a funny approach, you know? That would be funny to be at. Like, not as the person it happening to.
Yeah.
But if you were in the room when that was happening, it would be funny.
That's like the opposite of anything I would ever do ever.
So what
Like take
what would you
something
do?
awkward and then make it more awkward.
You know, just because
funny.
just because I like it doesn't mean you have to do it or like it. Like you could, like, you know what I mean? Like the best part about stand up is there is no rules. You can learn how to do crowd work for you that suits you. But the only way to do it is do crowd work. Start. Hey, how's it going? Like, how are you conversationally when you're at a coffee shop? Do you make the baristas laugh?
No.
Yeah. Crowd work might know. That's how I knew I'd be good at crowd work, is like I make people laugh regularly just in real life, right? Like I'll just be talking and they'll laugh. That's all crowd work is. Conversationally funny. That's it. I do like it though. I hate what I do hate. This is one of my pet peeves. I'm the same guy in the crowd work and then in the bits, right? It's the same brain, the same person, the same energy, but then the bits don't work because they're like, like my bits will start bombing often because I'll do crowd work and then they're like, yeah, we don't care about your jokes.
They just want to keep going with the crowd work.
Yeah, they're like, the jokes aren't good enough. And it's like, they're they're the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that though. They're in like the energy of it. It's more present. They can
Yeah.
feel it.
Have you done a lot of crowd work? Are you trying to
There's
do more of
some
it?
there's some rooms that are small enough that I have to, but I was actually just deciding like after I hosted my show on Monday that I have to just only do crowd work for a bit. Like obviously I'm gonna be like at an open mic.
That's what hosting is for. I always recommend people host a lot. Like try and host other people's shows. Be like, I'm willing to host, because like, firstly, that's how you start getting paid quicker, right? Like if you can MC something, the money doors open, right? Like you can host events. Someone's putting on a gala and they need an MC. Right? Like there's more money in hosting opportunity. In the end run, nobody wants to be a host, but I like hosting a lot.
You seem like you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I like doing sets, but I'm comfortable with it. I've hosted so many shows at this point.
Nice.
It's the only way to do it. I remember how nervous I was for my first host.
What was it?
Like at a club. It was it's now called Levity, but it was Yuck's Hamilton at the time.
Sweet.
My first hosting weekend at a club. Yeah, well, I got in with the club in St. Catharines, Showtime. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I got in there because one night I was there the middle, and the host no-showed, and I was like, I'll host, right? And then he let me host a lot more, and then so like when headliner friends were going to do it, and they were like, oh, I need a host, he'd be like, well, Ariel can come host. So yeah, like get you in with places too.
Nice. And now the focus is, so it's you and Brandon are Bubby's boys.
Yeah, so I mean, we complicated it like everything. We do everything a bit too complicated. So the problem is we're individual comedians who are part of a duo, who then also own a venue. So it gets a bit convoluted.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, we were trying to build both simultaneously, because the main reason people come to Backroom Comedy Club is me and Brandon.
Yeah.
Like, if you talk to people who are there, they're there because they've met me and Brandon. They've seen me and Brandon, right? Like, they're there because of that. And so I would say 66% of the audience is that. And so we try to build Bubby's, but right now our focus is Backroom.
Yeah, but you guys still tour, right? Like, so
we
it's
did
not always
we did
at
a
the
tour
club.
in February, but we probably won't tour for until the club is more consistent.
Okay.
Because that needs to be our focus. So we're like all in on that for a bit.
And you have me hosting Funny Bitches on Monday nights.
Which Monday?
The fourth Monday of the month.
Fourth Monday of the month. Yeah, it's a bit confusing. Monthlies get confusing, but Funny Bitches are a funny premise for a thing. Yelling Funny Bitches tonight at the club is funny.
It was good because I was doing some like trying to sell tickets, barking outside with Felipe beforehand, and sometimes I just yell "Funny Bitches," and people would look over, and then because it's hard to get people to stop on the street, like they don't want.
I mean,
to.
Barking is another skill set that takes time to learn. Right? Like we used to bark for spots at other clubs. That's why we know how to bark.
Yeah.
Right? Like we did it. We would show up for our 5-minute set. If we didn't bring people in, we didn't get on. So it was like you learn to bring people in because you got to get on.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just another skill set. Right?
Do you think it makes you better at comedy?
It makes shows happen. So yes. The amount of times we've gone from no people to a show because Brandon and I bark in 15 people.
Yeah. Which is crazy too, like the way like there are people around at all times that want to have fun.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is through marketing and the brand and what we're doing, there's enough hype that we don't need to bark. Because you don't really want an audience of, okay, whatever. You want people who are comedy fans to be there. You want people who are like, I wanted to see a show. They make the better audience. But, if you have 20 of those people and then 10 people who were like, oh, what a interesting, let's live on the whim, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you got a good night.
Sweet. Okay, so you have a bunch of things. You have Bubby's Boys, you have Backroom Comedy.
And then my own.
And then your own.
Yeah, like brand, I guess.
Okay, so...
Should be an advert for HydroFlow. It sounds like a fucking period company, doesn't it?
Hydroflow? Yeah, that's or a bidet company,
Like
maybe.
they make diva cups. The Hydroflow.
I don't think you want water in your Diva cup.
You clean it with water, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
On that note,
That's where we're leaving.
that's where we're leaving.
Yeah, check. Yeah, if you want to know more about what I'm up to, check out the Backroom Comedy Club website, backroomcomedyclub.com, or find me on Instagram, Ariel Kagan Comedian, or Backroom Comedy Club on Instagram. Bubby's Boys Presents is also there. These are all the places to find us.
Amazing. And obviously, most importantly,
Come to Funny Bitches.
every fourth Monday at Backroom Comedy,
Yeah.
Blur and Christy.
Do it.
Okay. Thanks so much for
Thanks
coming
for
on,
having me.
Ariel.
Bye.